Hey, family members. Remember my last episode on 5 steps for turning worry into action? If you remember, step 2 was to get focused and get informed. So let's get focused and informed about financial planning with Mark Solomon of Financial Guidance for Special Needs Families. Hello, and welcome to Season 5 of our Parallel Paths, a future for my loved one with a disability and for me. I'm your host, Gerry, Dr. Geralyn Arango Deeley, and this podcast is about just what the title says, the parallel paths of family members and their loved ones with intellectual disabilities. I'm a parent myself, and I always have questions. Our parallel paths is about nurturing and supporting ourselves as we nurture and support our loved ones with intellectual disabilities, because our roles as family members are ever changing and evolving alongside our loved ones. So there's more than one path, more than one future to talk about. And that's why we're here. I hope the stories and perspectives of my podcast guests and me give you hope, information, and ideas for your path. So, like I said, I wanted to follow up on my last episode, episode 1, where I was thinking about what to do besides worrying about my loved one's future. That episode was about finding another way to address the useless emotion of worry. And in that case, it was worry about the mess that was poised to happen when paperwork issues snagged Nick's Medicaid waiver renewal. Because in that moment, I thought, I have to do this differently. There's no space for hysteria, which is where I was. So I thought about saying, like, I'm concerned about, or I need to do something about, or I need to learn more about. And that's why my guest today is Mark Solomon of Financial Guidance for Special Needs Families. My husband Michael and I have different go-tos for information on planning for Nick and learning more about it. And Mark Solomon's Financial Guidance YouTube channel, website, and Facebook page is one of our newer resources. Mark and his wife Suzanne, they're on the parallel path themselves. They're parents and financial planners for families like ours. So welcome, Mark, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Gerry. It's my pleasure to be here.
So you maybe
Go ahead.
tell us a little bit about yourself and your family story.
Sure. As you said, I'm Mark Solomon. My wife is Suzanne. Our sons are Martin and Robert. They are twins. They are 25, soon to be 26 next month, July, actually at the end of July. And they were talking about them just really quickly. They were diagnosed with autism and ADHD. Um, uh, 22 years ago when they were 3 years old. So we've been working at this a long time. And fast forward to about 15 years ago, I got introduced to the financial side of things. Basically, I became Gerry says, financial planner. Basically, I was a fully licensed financial professional, and I did that for more than a decade. And it got to the point where these paths collided between being a financial planner and doing all that was necessary for our sons. And Suzanne and I got together and talked about what we could do. And at the time, a Facebook group putting one together to address these issues of financial planning for special needs families came up, and we went on a real super fast learning curve about benefits and insurances and all different kinds of aspects of planning for special needs for everyone. And what basically has happened is kind of exploded into our Facebook group having over 4,000 members, our
Nice.
YouTube channel where we're trying to approach 1,000 soon. We now have 200 videos on all these things that we speak about, but the main reason that we're doing it is educational for folks. Most people are very stressed out about financial matters in regard to their children, mostly benefits, how they work, the things that, they need to do, and how can they save? Because most people are walking around in fear in regard to their money. What's going to happen in the future when I pass away? That is the biggest, I would say that's the number one thing that bother folks the most, or they are most concerned about, is how am I going to provide for my child after I pass away? So we put together kind of a guide for, like I don't know what's the word I want to look for, like a map to putting together a financial plan specifically for special needs families. The tools are the same for everyone, but they don't all work the same for everyone.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so basically what the last thing I basically want to kind of say is that we're trying to alleviate the daily stress financially so that you can focus more on what your family's needs are and have this in place so you're really just monitoring it instead of juggling all these balls and spinning all these plates with your money.
Okay. Okay. That's why you're here. I hear you say that on all the videos. That's like kind of how you started, and that's exactly why we were like, let's listen to a few more of these. So, in your experience, how what are the pieces that make it different planning for families of adults with disabilities as opposed to a typical family who have adult children?
Well, typical families with adult children are usually very ecstatic because they're out of the house and they no longer have to provide for them. And but the biggest thing is, like, as a parent, you always worry about your child, even if they're typical. But if they're able to be self-sustaining, take care of themselves, have a house, have a marriage, have a family, you're usually there on the periphery, you know, answering whatever questions that come up with them. It's more about joy and the experience of getting older as your kids grow and they have a family of their own. Our experience is not that, and the difference is that I kind of talk about the fact that we feel in our experience that we're stuck in the teenage years with our kids in regard to their emotional and psychological maturity.
Mhm.
So we're perpetually worried about them the same way we were when they were 12 or 13 and dealing with a lot of the same things that they were working through behaviorally, psychologically, cognitively, emotionally, physically. And so that is constant for us as a special needs family, and it never goes away. The kind of care that you need to put in place for or put forth for your children with special needs is ongoing and perpetual. You never kind of get to the end, and that's the struggle, is the as we've talked about, exhaustion, stress, worry, and just fear of the future. So those are the things that are different. The fear of the future for a typical family is totally different than
Uh-huh.
the fear of the future for a special needs family. They're much more vulnerable. They can be easily taken care of or abused. And a lot of the worry that, and I'm just getting chills thinking about it, a lot of the worry for us is we want to protect them. We want
Mhm.
to make sure that they're going to be okay even when we're gone.
Yeah,
Most typical families don't have that worry. They know that their children are going to be okay because why? They already have their own lives and they're already taking care of themselves.
right.
So that's the difference I see.
That I hear you on all those pieces because I hear that in Nick's story as well. Much as we are trying to give him, he's working in the community, he's living in the community, he's got a lot of supports, but I always think if I die tomorrow, what happens?
Right,
Where does it all fall apart? And if I break down some of the pieces of what I do, they're really minuscule things like, you know, this is weird. Like who cuts his nails? Who's going to make sure of the little bitty things? And those are
right,
things that I don't worry about with my daughter. We ain't got a manicure. So
right,
it is a different level of worry at that sort of micro level that we so often our other children grow out of.
right,
And so, yeah. And again, we had talked a little before the podcast about the idea that our families have been advocating to a greater or lesser degree. This is not where we're starting. This is just where we're restarting because we're out of the school system and and what they're entitled to, and now we're qualifying. So
Right.
when they're sitting down with a financial planner like yourself, what we had also, my husband and I had said, we're going to go talk to somebody, a financial planner. And it turned out to be less financial planning and more asset management. And we walked away going, I think we've got the asset management part. We're a little bit okay with that. What we wanted was guidance about it. And so it's as I listen to your videos on YouTube and on Facebook, it feels like it's a little bit different because it doesn't feel like there's necessarily a sell at the end of this. It's guidance. And so I would love you to tell me more about sitting down with someone like yourself, what that looks like for a family like my own.
Well, the difference is uh, the ends are different, right? First of all, there's no sales in what I do. I'm not selling any products, and I'm not even selling myself. My consultations are complimentary always, because it's informational. My goal when I sit with someone is to relieve a stress, a pressure, get some education, clarification. I've had people tell me, Mark, I haven't slept for 3 days worrying about this one thing that we're talking about today. And after talking with them, and it's happened several times that they are so grateful because that stressor is now gone and they can park it and they don't have to deal with it anymore because now they have the understanding because there's so many abstracts. And when you deal with the government and with benefits, um, inside of the melee of all the things that we're dealing with doctors and therapies and transportation and food issues and behavior stuff or living arrangements and all these other things that we're thinking about. When you can tick one box and not have to worry about it, that's just such a help. So that's the main goal that we're trying to reach. But the end is to have something substantial that you can hold on to that you can work with. It's like giving someone a toolkit
Hmm.
to build a house, but they're all kitchen utensils. That's not, we try to give people the kind of tools that they can use to move forward. And as questions arise, and we usually give them, a path forward. Like the first thing you guys need to do is this, and then follow up with this, and these are the priorities. It's always about priorities based on what they're telling me, not on what I'm telling them. And that's also the difference. There's usually you start figuring out how to pay down your debt. You need to do these things. And it's always kind of the same. When I sit with someone with a special needs family, they could be off the rails, scared about losing benefits. So we have to talk about fixing that first. And then we can go back to asking questions about, well, how's your income? How's your saving? What are we doing here? This is how we can take advantage of these things for you. So yeah, the difference is I'm not doing anything by rote. There's a specific toolkit, but it applies differently to everybody.
Okay. Okay. It sounds much more holistic and kind of and family centered rather than product centered.
Exactly, is
Yeah.
exactly what it's about.
Okay. And are you in these days of the word Medicaid existing in the same sentence way too often with the word cut? Um, what are you thinking about with regard to what you're sharing with families? How is that impacting your work?
I tend not to worry,
Okay.
and I'll explain to you why. And I always tell people, I just had a video I did like a week or two ago about empowering yourself, because right now people are freaking out.
Yes.
All over Facebook, people are freaking out, and justifiably so.
Yes.
I mean, this is one of the main components to your special needs financial existence is supplemental medical coverage for your children, whether they be adults or not, because out of pocket for certain therapies. I mean, I just said this. A friend of ours whose son has SMA, which is spinal muscular atrophy, which is a muscular dystrophy. His 4 time a year medical treatment is $1 million each time. And without any kind of supplemental help or anything, there's no way that there's a copay that can be paid. There's no way. The good thing is that they're in this trial. But there are people who are not in a trial who have expensive medications that if they're not able to pay copays of hundreds or thousands of dollars, their child goes without. So I understand why people are getting kind of freaked out. But so what I tell people is based on your state and based on the federal government, read about what exactly is going on. Get the information regarding specifically your situation, what your state is doing in regard to be happening in California. Um, the whatever the governor's trying to propose has almost nothing to do with special needs families per se, but whenever you're dealing with the government, things change a lot. So I just, I encourage people to read and do research and find out what the language is because try not to listen to a bunch of talking heads. A lot of the times people will be saying something that's inflammatory. They use words like this could happen, this could happen. Well, a lot of things could happen, but I looked up the number of people who are on any kind of assistance in this country right now, and it's over 68%. And special needs is well over 30 to 35% um, of the population that is receiving benefits. So I don't see them cutting anything too severely if they do, because too many people would be destitute or have lots of problems. I think they're trying to eliminate waste, but other than that, we got to take it by case basis and be informed and not to panic. Running around scared like the sky is falling is not going to help you.
Okay, I'm actually really happy you said that because I'm trying to tamp it down myself, to be like don't read and try to understand above the headlines what's in the article,
Right.
yeah.
What Medicaid looks like in your state,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
what they are doing to adjust to what could be coming or what is coming or
Yeah.
what isn't happening,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's a state by state basis.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I hope that that's better news for most states or all states.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes, absolutely.
okay. And so, another thing I think about, and this is huge. I have my son Nick has an older sister. She's 3 years older. She's married. She's about to have her second child. She lives she's not in Pennsylvania. Um, but and they're close and she loves her brother. But what I think about and I wonder your thoughts on this is when it comes to siblings, the
Mhm.
person who is going to be the next one. She is the successor power of attorney. She's the successor trustee on the trust. She's the next in line. And she's not even 30 and she's starting her own family. And it's I started some episodes with siblings and I want to do more because I'm really questioning this myself. So if someone comes to you and says, my daughter, my son is going to take my role when I'm gone. What do they need to know? This keeps me up at night sometimes. I've started trying to gather all the information for her so that she can
Mhm.
find anything she needs. But what are your thoughts on siblings who might be, assuming the mantle when the parents are gone?
Well, first of all, it's wonderful that that can happen because that's not always the case.
True. And people
I
with
do
large
talk to
families and
many
small
people that
families. Yeah.
there it right, right. I do talk to plenty of people who have a child that is like all in. Yeah, don't worry, mom, I'm going to handle it. So I don't know if it's advice or a guideline, but I would always want to keep them in the loop as everything progresses constantly. Hey,
Mhm.
we're doing this. Can you come in on this meeting or afterwards? Can we get some time so I could fill you in and keep you up to date with what's happening, how it works, and what it means to you for the future? And I'll keep you up with changes. I think a lot of problems that people run into is a set it and forget it mentality. Like, okay, I've got the sibling, they say they want to do it. Okay, we've got this in place, we've got that in place. They're going to be the subsequent trustee, they're going to be the subsequent guardian. Okay, great, they've signed on to it. and then you don't talk
Hmm.
for 10 years about it.
Yeah.
And then it comes upon them, and now they have no idea how it works. They really don't know how the trust works. They don't understand, and now they have to go through everything that you did because now you're gone and
Hmm.
this has fallen in their lap. And this does happen where people, I've had to talk to someone who's picking up things and they've had to like figure it all out on their own, taking care of their brother or their sister or their nephew or their grandchild. And I would definitely encourage, keep them in the loop, keep them in the meetings, have either have them have copies of all the pertinent documentation that has their name on it. If they're a subsequent trustee of the trust, they need a copy of the trust so they can read it and have it with them. If they're what you call it, if they're going to be the follow-up guardian, they need to know what that means, and legally what their responsibilities are and what they can or cannot do. All those things I would say are most important is that they understand where the money comes from, where it's going, how it happens, and what their role in it is. Because when it comes down to it, it's the transfer of funds from one place to another to secure for security for the child, for the adult child. So if they know how all that operation happens, for the most part, when they pick it up, they can just go up and run with it and not be scared. They can have confidence knowing what their role is and what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, that's the one that keeps me up right now because it's real. I have one other child and I'm the only surviving parent. And so it
Right.
feels like, oh, next, and so
Right.
I don't want to
Right.
kill myself, not
I
bumping
hear
myself
you.
off right there, but
Right. My only thought is like find a backup to your backup.
yeah, thinking about that too is to really
Yeah.
create a support around him that also
Right. His
encircles
circle, we
her.
call it a circle of support.
Yeah.
Um,
And that she,
and that is like, yeah, that's
yeah.
wherever he works, wherever he lives, whoever knows him, those people are so integral to keeping him from getting into trouble. At the supermarket, there could be a checker or two with a manager who knows who he is. So if something's happening, they can at least make a phone call, or they know how to talk to him because they know him, or
Yeah.
they know not to freak out because he has a disability and they don't know how to deal with it. But that
Yes.
circle of support is very important. So
Yes.
yeah, that's
Yes.
that's the net that I yeah have that for sure. You
Yes.
know,
It supports both of them in a way, that she knows that she's not alone, that people know the story, and
right.
that he is just, there are a few more people who deliberately are thinking about him and engaging him. He's got it's something I'm working on. So back to you on that one. But
Well, good. Well, no, good. Do that. Keep
yeah,
working on it.
yeah,
It's good
yeah.
for you and him.
So now we can find you on YouTube, on
Yes.
your website, snfguidance.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And on Facebook,
YouTube
where,
is Financial Guide for Special Needs Families. Also, our Facebook group is the same name. But if you're not on Facebook and it's more immediate for you to be on YouTube, please go there, subscribe so you can get alerts on the videos. We try to put them out every week.
yeah, yes. And they really are good. They're nice bite-sized morsels. It's not an hour and a half. It's like 20 minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah,
and keep
that's
it
all we're trying to do
digestible.
is
Yeah.
cover a topic, right?
Yeah.
If I have to do a deep dive, we'll do more than one.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what we usually do.
Yeah. And I'm grateful. That's how I take in information myself. So what do you hope families will remember? Because it's about planning for your adult loved one with a disability and planning for yourself. So
Yeah.
what do you hope people will kind of remember and keep on their radar to be successful at that double endeavor, that parallel path?
Right. That parallel path is that we talk about that, and it's so important. I'm so glad you brought that up, Jerry. I try to I know it's hard to hear this because as special needs parents, we're never first. But when it comes to the money, you got to put yourself at least at the same place in your mind with them, if not first. Why? And I tell people you can't put your retirement aside. You can't put your savings aside. You can't put yourself on the back burner because there's going to be a time where you can't do what you're doing now. You can't make the salary you're making. You can't move around like you move. You can't do all the physical things that you do.
Hmm.
But I would say you need to also have your own, your own retirement in or savings in place, or at least thinking about it, because if you retire and you're just living hand to mouth, there's nothing you can do in emergencies or in any way to help your adult child if something happens.
Yeah.
So saving for yourself and being um, prepared for retirement where I know I'm going to say things that people aren't going to believe, but you need to be debt free at retirement. You shouldn't be paying a mortgage when you're on a fixed income. You should definitely have your budget in place. You should have enough savings to last you at least 20 years. And people go, whoa, 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 what does all that mean? Well, that's part of the plan. And if you give yourself enough time, it costs a lot less over long term to save for the future than it does like in the last 10 years of your working life. So
Right.
I always encourage people, look, $200 a month now for 20 to 25 years is a whole lot more than $1,000 a month the last 8 years.
Yeah.
So start paying attention to it, because if you have a secured retirement, and I'm not saying you need to be wealthy, you just need to be able to have about 70 to 80% of your income taken care of, because Social Security is not going to do it.
No.
And we're crossing our fingers that it's still going to be there, but you can't bank on it. Even
No.
Social Security themselves say it's not a retirement plan.
No.
The maximum it is 40% of your income, maximum.
Yeah.
So most people, the average is less than $1,000 a month to check.
Right.
So by doing that, you'll then also further secure your child later, because that's transferable, right?
Right.
Those assets can be transferable. So the better you take care of yourself while you're taking care of your child, the better your child will be taken care of when you're gone. So that parallel path has got to be, you're doing your best for your child, but you also got to put yourself there at the same time doing your best for you. Because by
Okay.
doing that, you're also peripherally taking care of your child for the
Yes,
best.
yes, yes. Now I'm going to slip this in because my husband said it, and I said, I'm not sure there's a place for this, but it may be here. Um,
Okay.
he said, and he says it all the time, and it's true, that this is some wisdom for perhaps the younger parents, that like the days of a one parent, mother or father, whatever, sort of not working at all for decades, um,
Mhm.
is probably not a great plan for most people, because one of those parents, their social security record they're not gonna have one.
That's right.
And so,
And go
yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, and what was, and uh, the good news is that in a lot of states, I'm not sure where you are in Wilmington, if it's Delaware, right? Is that where you
Delaware,
are?
yeah. Wilmington,
Right.
Delaware.
And I don't know what they have in place. You said you had some waiver program there, which was great through about Medicaid, but in several states, California, there's a huge blessing. And I'm not saying people should just move, but find out what's available for in-home supportive care services for your child. In California, they have a thing called IHSS, which is in-home supportive services. And basically, they will pay you to take care of your child because it costs them less than it would for them to do it for you.
Right, right,
So parents can stay home. One of them can,
right.
and secure an income that's substantial enough that not only can you live and survive, but you can actually thrive. They have similar things in Florida, I believe Oregon and Colorado. I'm not sure
Mhm,
where you are in
mhm.
Delaware
Well,
or
Nick is in Pennsylvania.
in
So what we have,
Pennsylvania.
yeah, the structure that we have is I'm the common law employer, so I don't get paid. We're sort of a self-direction hybrid. And so
Yeah.
Nick's services are work, he gets job coaching, so that's an agency. But the rest is me hiring, and I'm the human resources person.
Right. We have that in California as
Yeah.
well through what's called the regional center, regional center structure here, where services are delineated from the state through the regional center. But we have a thing called self-determination, where
Right.
we do the same thing. We have services and we have a budget and we hire people. And but the good news is that in some cases we can hire ourselves.
Hmm.
But getting back to your point about a single income household and how difficult that is and how in the future that could be a problem, I would always, unless you're on SSI as a family, and I always talk about how to double your SSI income through part-time work, and that's a couple of videos I've done on that. But working part-time from home is probably very prudent, a good idea.
Okay.
Find a way to make income. I even talk to people about shop for elderly folks in your neighborhood, mow lawns, walk dogs, do something for cash. So, where it's more of like a friendly service where people would like pay you to babysit their kids or things like that. But there are so many customer service or data entry or some kind of position online that
Hmm.
you can work from home 15, 20, 30 hours a week where you can make a decent income
Yeah.
and you can still be with your child and
Hmm.
you can still give those services and that attention that's necessary.
Yeah.
Um,
And have a
and
work
your
record for
money,
Social Security.
right,
Yeah.
right. And yeah, as long as you're employed, yes, you can build up those 40 credits for Social Security and have something for them later if necessary. I just really I really think that especially to kind of like help pay for the things that are extra, if you can do something that's not going to be overtaxing and stressful, I would recommend it's a good idea to
Okay.
figure that out. And we can
Okay.
talk about it one-on-one,
Okay.
whoever has a consultation. If they have a
Okay.
skill set, we can always explore things like that.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Mark, so much. Thank you so much for all this helpful information, for talking with me today. I'm glad you made time for us to chat. Um, and so,
Yes.
listeners, I'm going to say thank you to you too for spending so much time on today's episode of our Parallel Paths with Mark Solomon of Financial Guidance for Special Needs Families. I hope you'll check out his resources. We'll put them in the show notes as well. And maybe you'll even want to schedule a consultation. So, um, on that note, also, I hope that you'll like and comment and follow our podcast, that you'll share it with family and friends. And I really hope you'll return to listen and learn for more stories of people like you and me and our loved one with a disability on our parallel paths. I want you to know you're not alone. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to comment, to rate the podcast, and to join our Facebook group. This podcast is produced by Networks for Training and Development, and I'll see you next time.